Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in, because today we are going to completely dismantle pretty much everything you thought you knew about productivity, success, and just getting stuff done. We are unpacking the groundbreaking principles from Gary Keller's phenomenal book, The One Thing. You know, if you've ever felt utterly exhausted at the end of the day, but somehow still feel like you accomplished absolutely nothing of actual value, well, this explainer is built specifically for you. We're going to look at the biggest myths holding you back and give you a laser-focused framework for achieving truly extraordinary results. Okay, let's dive right into this with a piece of ancient wisdom that honestly perfectly captures our modern problem. If you chase two rabbits, you will not catch either. Now, there was a time in my life when I was just absolutely fascinated by magic tricks. I thought being a magician was the coolest thing ever, so I started learning sleight of hand. But right around that exact same time, I heard someone beatboxing, and I was completely blown away. So obviously, I decided I needed to learn beatboxing too. Throw in a few other random hobbies I picked up along the way, and what do you think the result was? I was spending all this energy running in 10 different directions, and I ended up being totally average. Actually, scratch that. I was honestly worse than average at every single one of them. By trying to be everything, I became nothing special at anything. I was basically out there chasing a whole field of rabbits.
But look at the absolute legends of our world. What do these titans actually have in common? Well, they didn't scatter their focus. Sachin Tendulkar didn't try to be a world-class chef on the side, right? His one thing was cricket. Warren Buffett's one thing is investing. Muhammad Ali, boxing. Cristiano Ronaldo, football. Just imagine for a second if Warren Buffett decided he also wanted to be a Hollywood actor, a heavyweight boxer, and a professional football player, all at the exact same time. There is no way he'd be known today as one of the richest, most successful investors in human history. Greatness absolutely requires an obsession with a single pursuit.
Think about the stark physical difference in how energy works. If you have broad sunlight shining down on a piece of paper, what happens? Basically nothing. The paper just gets a little warm. It's nice, it's pleasant, but it's not powerful. But if you take that exact same sunlight and you narrow it through a magnifying glass, concentrating all of that scattered energy into one tiny pinpointed spot, it burns right through the paper. And your focus works the exact same way. When your focus is broad, you're just warming the paper. But when you narrow your focus down to your absolute most critical task, you become a literal force of nature that just burns right through obstacles.
All right, let's hit our first major roadblock. Number 1, the myth of multitasking. You know, society loves to tell us that doing a million things at once is some sort of badge of honor. But let's look at the actual definition here. The word multitasking didn't even come from human psychology. It came from computer engineering. It literally describes a computer processor rapidly switching back and forth between different operations. Humans physically cannot focus on two complex tasks simultaneously. We aren't truly multitasking. We're just rapidly task switching. And here's the kicker. Every single time your brain switches from one task to another, there is a massive cognitive cost. You lose time, you lose accuracy, and you just totally exhaust your brain.
To really visualize this, picture yourself having a deep, intense conversation on a phone call while taking a casual walk through a quiet garden. You might be thinking, hey, I'm walking and talking, I'm multitasking. But you aren't. Your brain has pushed the walking into the background. It's automatic, while the phone call is right there in the foreground of your attention. But what happens if you suddenly have to cross a busy, chaotic road with cars zooming past? Instantly, your brain drops the phone conversation. You might even stop talking mid-sentence. Why? Because survival demands the foreground. You can only truly, deeply focus on one critical thing at a time.
Which brings us to number 2. Willpower is a draining battery.
Gary Keller has this completely brilliant concept here to explain why our best intentions so often just fall apart. Think of your willpower as a literal battery inside your body. It's a biological resource. When you wake up after a good night's sleep, that battery is sitting at a full 100%. But here is the catch. Every single decision you make, every temptation you resist, every random email you reply to drains that battery. By the time night falls, that battery is practically at 0%. Willpower is not on will call, guys. It runs out.
And honestly, this perfectly explains what I like to call the failed evening plan. Have you ever mapped out a day like this? You tell yourself, I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to meditate, exercise, go to work, and then tonight I'm going to learn the guitar and finally work on that brilliant business idea. But what actually happens? By 7 p.m., after a long day of making decisions at work, your willpower battery is totally dead. You don't pick up the guitar, you don't work on the business, you just crash on the couch. And look, you shouldn't beat yourself up about it, it's just biology. Your battery was empty.
So the absolutely crucial point is this. If you want to guarantee that your most important work actually gets done, you cannot save it for the evening. You must tackle your hardest, most critical task first thing in the morning, right when your willpower battery is at its absolute peak. Protect your mornings. Give your best energy to your biggest priority before the world even has a chance to drain your battery.
All right, number 3, finding your one thing.
So how do you actually pinpoint your singular focus in a world that is practically designed to distract us? Gary Keller provides what he calls the focusing questions. These are basically the compass for your life. Ask yourself, 1, what is the one thing I must do? And 2, what can I do right now such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or completely unnecessary? Memorize that second question. It is incredibly profound. You aren't just looking for another task for your to-do list. You are looking for the linchpin task, the one single action that just knocks down all the other obstacles in your way. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. Number 4, the massive domino effect. When you apply your morning focus to your one thing, you set off a chain reaction. Let's look at the actual physics of success here. Did you know that a standard, tiny 2-inch domino has enough potential energy to knock down another domino that is 50% larger than itself? It's true. You tip over a 2-inch domino, it knocks down a 3-inch domino, which knocks down a 4.5-inch domino. It scales exponentially. This is exactly how small, highly focused daily tasks scale into unbelievable, world-changing achievements. Let's play this mathematical progression out for a second. If you keep lining up dominoes, each one 50% larger than the last one, by the time you reach the 23rd domino, do you know how big it would be? It would literally be the size of the Eiffel Tower. Just 23 sequential, focused actions, starting from a tiny 2-inch block, brings down a structure that towers over Paris. But we're not stopping there. Let's escalate the energy to the absolute maximum scale. If you keep that chain going, the 57th domino would be so massively gigantic that it would bridge the entire distance from the Earth all the way to the moon. No joke. That is the power of geometric progression. But remember, you cannot push over a moon-sized domino on day 1. You have to start by flicking that little 2-inch domino.
Okay, let's bring this moon analogy back down to reality for a second and apply it to your goals. The book advises against obsessing over your massive, distant goals if it means you ignore the present. Instead, structure your dominoes. Your now goal is that 2-inch domino. Knocking that down effortlessly topples your day goal, which hits your week goal, which crashes into your month goal, and finally shatters your massive year goal. You don't conquer the year all at once, you conquer right now.
Because success is sequential, it's not simultaneous. You achieve it one step at a time. If your ultimate life goal is to become an Arapati, a billionaire, you cannot just jump there in a single leap. That's like trying to push over the moon-sized domino with your bare hands. First, you have to focus entirely on becoming a Lakpati. Once that domino falls, you focus all your energy on the Crorepati domino. Long-lasting success is built step by step, milestone by milestone. Which leads us to our final takeaway. Number 5, the 4-hour rule. We've talked about the theory, the focus, and the dominoes. Now, what exact habit do you actually need to build starting today to make this your reality? Keller recommends that you dedicate at least 4 continuous hours every single day to your one thing. Block it out on your calendar, guard it with your life, and keep in mind, this 4-hour block doesn't just mean raw execution or practice. If your one thing is mastering the game of chess, your 4 hours isn't just playing matches. It includes researching openings, discussing strategies with mentors, reading books about endgames, the whole shebang. It is complete immersion in your singular obsession. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a real challenge. When you wake up tomorrow morning, your willpower battery will be sitting right at 100%. The house will be quiet, the distractions won't have even started yet. Before you check your phone, before you scatter your energy to the wind, what will be the tiny 2-inch domino you push over? What will be your one thing? Figure that out, execute it, and just watch your extraordinary results begin to unfold. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely can't wait to see what you achieve.